When you drive a vehicle, you are not just a car driver, you are a motorist. Pure six-cylinder, 2.4 liters, 80 HP was developed in the vehicle development operation. Karl-Marx-Stadt, now Chemnitz, developed. My car history began in my early childhood days. I was almost born in a car. My mother started collecting Matchbox cars for me, which I later continued. I still have all of them in my collection today. I was always crazy about driving anything that was rolling stock. Later, this naturally became more skilled with vehicles. As an apprentice, I bought a Trabant from my father. I then drove around the area with it, and the day I got my driver's license, I drove my grandparents on vacation. It got crazier from there. After 3 years, I bought my first VW Golf, one of the 10,000 units that were imported into the GDR in 1978. And it continued like that, from Golf to Mazda to Volvo. When my love for vintage cars developed, I said I wanted a car. That isn't seen often on the road. And then I came across on this Horch Sachsenring P240 at a vintage car meeting, and I said, man, this is a really beautiful car, elegantly designed. It showcases the 1950s, demonstrates the skills of the Horch engineers. I actually knew the car a little from my early childhood because it was really around in the 1980s. Used vehicles were gladly taken by home builders because the vehicle had a six-cylinder, 2.4 liter engine, 80 horsepower, and was relatively powerful. And that's why the car was popular. Of course, it was then also used as a utility vehicle and was, as they say, stripped down and eventually disappeared. By the end of the 1980s, I didn't see the vehicles at all anymore. I even once came across a very rare Horch Sachsenring convertible. It was a parade convertible. 4 of these cars were built, some say 5. There were also 7 station wagons of this type. They were built for DEFA. Among other things, the Peace Race was motorized by the station wagons. Today, 2 vehicles still exist, and all 4 of the convertibles still exist. In 2007, I was close to acquiring such a vehicle, wanted to buy it, but then didn't get it. I had looked at a limousine that was still relatively easy to restore, but I didn't get that either. So, I searched in daily newspapers in the area around Zwickau where the vehicle was built, and placed an ad with similar wording in 2 newspapers, looking to buy everything related to Horch Sachsenring P240. Spare parts, entire vehicles, print media, eyewitnesses. The ad appeared, but no calls came. I received no letters. After 3 to 4 weeks, the phone rang early on a Saturday morning, and I was offered such a car. I was, of course, all fired up and asked about the condition of the vehicle, whether it needed restoration. And the gentleman told me, no, the car runs. It's in the garage. It has a valid inspection and emissions test. You could come and take the car for a test drive. And I was all excited and wanted to set off immediately. No, he said, that's not possible. You have to wait. I've already offered the car to someone else, and they get to see the car first. I said, man, it's not like it used to be. Whoever comes first today thinks they have priority. No, I won't do that. Well, I had to wait. A week later, I wanted to call, really wanted to push a bit. I even wanted to pay extra. Suddenly, the call came from the gentleman himself saying, Mr. Gravel, it's your turn. I didn't waste any time. I immediately got into my car, took a driver with me, packed some money, and drove to the Ore Mountains. And we arrived there. I was really so excited. He opened the garage, and there stood my dream, my Horch Sachsenring P240 in almost its current condition. And then came the question, did I hide anything from him? Did I promise too much? Are you disappointed? I couldn't express my joy so much that he realized I was completely surprised by the condition of the vehicle. We got in, he turned it over twice, and then the car started and purred along. And then we went on a big drive. It was simply a dream. I had butterflies in my stomach, I was tingling all over. I thought, hopefully now just sign the contract, pay the purchase price, and then head home to Erfurt to my own garage. What fascinates me about the car are all these little details that the Horch engineers incorporated into it. Starting with the ashtray, a lighted dimmable mirror inside, of course mechanically, everything synchronized. The interior lighting, special glasses were made for it. It was probably bead blasted to look like today's frosted glass. The steering wheel with the city coat of arms of Zwickau, cigarette lighter, hidden as they say in the piano keys so that it doesn't stand out. There is an ignition lock illumination. The door handle was not simply attached with a screw, but was done with a cap nut. So very, very high quality, just like the old ones had. This was continued in the car. When you see the small triangular windows on the vehicle, they are opened with a small spindle. There was a large continuous bench seat in the front, and the backrest could be made into a lying surface. The heating for the rear passengers was installed in the B-pillar in the lower area. The warm air is channeled through the sills, which is still present in the car because it hasn't been restored. The vehicle is almost unwelded. All type shelters are still there. I have already removed many parts. They all match the body number. All parts are still on the car. So it wasn't significantly supplemented. That is probably the case with the vehicle. The great rarity, because many vehicles that have been restored today were assembled from individual parts. Many things don't fit because the vehicle was handcrafted, which required 2,500 hours. And every body part was fitted to the car there. 7,500 small suppliers had to be activated. For the ventilation, small sieves were specially made by the coffee filter manufacturer of the time to prevent pests from entering the ventilation. My vehicle is the first type. The trim is still adapted to the zeitgeist of the early 1950s. The glass indicators were not simply taken off the shelf. No, for the Horch Sachsenring, the indicators had to be cast from glass. License plate lighting, hubcaps with the Horch logo on the front of the hood, the Horch logo on the rear deck. However, with the addition of VEB, it has the classic globe with wings. The old Horch still have it on the radiator. The globe with wings wouldn't fit on the car because the wings would point to the sky. This was adapted to the vehicle's sloping hood. The designation Horch Sachsenring P240 was only used until 1958. On May 1st, the two factories, Audi and Horch, were merged into Web Sachsenring. When I get into my Horch Sachsenring P240 from a modern vehicle, you notice you're almost transported back 60 years. The vehicle is actually easy to drive when it's running. Caution is advised in wet conditions due to the rigid rear axle. The gear shift is really a matter of habit, but even an outsider can quickly get the hang of it. Otherwise, everything is well placed. The space conditions in the car are good. It's the pleasant drive. The engine compartment is nice. The vehicle, with its 2.4 liters and 80 horsepower, it has an incredible amount of power. You can drive it at low revs and it pulls powerfully in third gear from almost 20 km/h until I have to shift into fourth. It's only a 4-speed area. The brakes are okay when they are cold. When they are warm, especially on such trips in the Ore Mountains through the hills, you really have to be careful to maintain a safe distance. It's difficult today because many people can no longer relate to the old cars. They then move into the safety distances. So for a moment you might break out in a sweat. I adjust myself, keep my distance, and fortunately, nothing has happened so far.